Hey everyone, this is Matt from Tabletop Games UK. We are moving on to our second video now, painting the Captain Boomerang model from Night Models Batman miniature game. So in the last video we got his skin, hair and the blue of his tracksuit top and hat painted. So now we're going to move on to just picking out the lettering on his tracksuit top. So I'm starting with Castle Grey, which is one of the newer colours from the Army Painter range, and I'm just using a size 0 Broken Toad Miniature Series Mark II brush. I'm just using thin paint and just picking out the letters. They're pretty well embossed, so you don't need to add you don't need a lot of paint just to pick them out. After we've got the Castle Grey down, we're just going to add a touch of white and just go over it again. We're just going to work off this Castle Grey base colour and work up to white. So as you can see there, I'm mainly just using the edge of the brush just to pick out the lettering. As I said, where it's pretty well embossed, you can just use the side of the brush rather than trying to pick it out individually with the bristles. And again, we just add more white just until we get our desired colour. So now we've got the lettering done on the top, we're now going to work on his jeans. This is a 50-50 mix of Necromancer cloak and wasted jeans, both from the Army Painter range. This gives us a grey blue colour. Originally I used to just use wasted jeans as my base colour for worn jeans, but I found it was slightly too blue. You needed to add a small amount of grey just to desaturate the colour very slightly. So this is our base colour. We're going to apply 2 thin coats of our base colour just to give us a good solid base to work off of. So now that we have our base colour down, we're going to start working on our shade. But for the shade I add another small amount of the Necromancer cloak just to slightly darken the base colour. And all we're going to do is just work it into all the areas where the light's not going to hit. So in particular in between all the creases of the jeans, in the area around in between the legs, the crutch area, where his belt is. All the areas that if the light was coming from above would cast a shadow. So once this video is uploaded, I should get it uploaded tonight. So in the morning I am driving up to Loughborough to take part in the Blood Damage Batman tournament. It's my first Batman tournament, taking Harlequin crew. Quite excited. There's me and another 6 fellas from my club going up, so I hope it's going to be a good day. There will be an article on it in Tabletop Games UK, so be sure to sign up if you want to hear how the tournament went and what sort of factions were there, what crews were taken, and how I got on. I ain't got no preconceived notions that I'm going to be coming anywhere near the top of the table, let alone coming first. So I'm going along for a bit of fun, go to meet new people and see how the Batman tournament circuit works. So So all we've done here is just added another small amount of Necromancer Cloak again, and now we're just going to concentrate on a smaller area. So we're shading the same areas but just a smaller amount, and that just gives us a nice smooth transition between our colour, particularly concentrating on the areas where the most amount of shadow would be, particularly on the inside of where his jacket comes down. And all the seams of the jeans and places like that really help the model pop. So now we're working on our first highlight. This is ash grey, and all this is has been added to the base colour. And now we're going to do the opposite to what we've done with the shading and just hit all the areas where the light will hit. So the tops of all the folds, the tops of all the seams, and the pockets and places like that. All the area where if the light's coming from above will catch the most light. You can really start to see the colour pop now. Again, if you use a nice thin paint, it will give you a nice smooth transition. I tend to follow the same sort of consistency that most painters do, which is the consistency of milk. It's quite difficult to explain. How I do it is once I've mixed my colour, I just paint a small part onto my skin, and if the paint runs into the cracks and the recesses of my skin, then it's the right sort of consistency. And again, we'll just keep working this colour up, so each highlight stage we'll add another small amount of the ash grey, and then we just work a smaller area, so only highlighting the real top edges of the folds and the top edges of the pockets and places like that. So now we're going to use straight Necromancer Coat to paint his leather jacket. Now, leather comes in a variety of different colours. From the screenshot pictures that I've seen, I've looked at on Google. Excuse me. From the screenshot pictures that I've looked at on Google, he's wearing this nearly black. It's a black type of leather. But I don't want it to look. If you paint it black, it's going to look like a real clean, fresh leather. And Captain Boomerang's quite a worn, ratty character, so his clothes are held together with gaffer tape or duct tape, depending where you are in the world. So I'm going to paint a Necromancer Cloak first. It just gives us a real deep grey. This is probably my favourite colour in the army painting range. I use it in so many of my mixes, and because even though it does desaturate the colour slightly, it really is a nice deep grey colour. I particularly like using it when I'm highlighting black, and using it as a base colour as an alternate sort of black as well, as it was what I'm doing with the leather jacket. And again, as normal, just two thin coats. Just give yourself a good solid base colour to work off of. So you can see we've got a good solid base down there. So what I'm doing now is I'm adding a wash of Army Painter dark tone. So this is their black tone, probably their equivalent of Null and Oil. And all this will do is this will darken down the leather, but it also gives it a very matte finish. The tone colours, I find. Leather, you don't always want it to look matte. You want it to have a little bit of shine to it, but where I want this to look quite dull and dishevelled, I want it to have a bit more of a matte finish. As when leather wears, it tends to like the outer surface. I'm assuming it must be oiled at some point when they're in the process of curing the skin. So it gives them a shiny finish, but I want this leather coat to look quite dishevelled, so strong tone will just give it that matte sort of finish and just darken the recesses for us. I use a variety of different techniques in my painting: shades, washes, selective glazing. One of the techniques I don't tend to do very often is dry brushing, just because I don't like the effect. But there's nothing wrong with it for certain types of things. I will use it on certain things like fur and that, but very rarely use it in any of my other painting. So you can see we just give it a good coverage all over, just making sure that it doesn't pool anywhere, and then we'll start working up the highlights from where we are here. So as you can see, it's just matted down that colour a bit and just giving it some shade. So again, we're going to go back to Castle Grey. Just add a small amount to the Necromancer cloak and work on the high areas where all the light would be hitting. And this Castle Grey has a very small brown tinge to it. It's quite difficult to see in these videos, but it's a very small amount. If you add white to it, it doesn't go through like a light grey. It just adds a very browny tinge to it. It's quite nice. It's very different. You can see when I'm doing the highlighting, I'm not working in straight lines, as I say. What I'm doing is like striping. It's a type of stippling where you stripe the highlight area rather than just do one straight solid line. And what this does, it gives it a textured effect. And again, with leather, you want it to have a very slight texture to it because it's a material, particularly if it's worn. So just by dragging the bristles down the area you're highlighting will just give it a slight texture to it. Moving on to the next highlight. So again, we just add another slight small amount of Castle Grey to the mix, and now we're just working on a smaller area, just make sure we catch all the areas of the collar and now the higher areas of the coat where the light will hit. Again, same technique, just the striping effect, just to try and add a bit of texture. Particularly concentrating on the edges of the the collars and the cuffs, because that's where the coat will tend to wear the most. And you see the striping effect's a bit better now. Now we're moving on to a lighter colour. And you see I'm just dabbing the bristles across the highlighted area there. And now for the final highlight, we're just working on the real high areas, so particularly on the edge of the corners of the collar, down the edge of the front there, and all the highest points. And you see that striping effect there again. So now we're moving on to the it's like just a patch over his left arm, which is again in the pictures it looks like a brown leather, so we're just going to paint his leather gloves as well. This we're using charred brown from the Vallejo Game Air range. This is a nice deep rich brown, just gives us a good base colour to work off of. And just while we're waiting for that to dry, we're going to paint his boots black, and the boomerangs. As the boomerangs we're going to be painting with a metallic silver, so by painting them black first just gives it the silver a good base colour to work off of. It does work perfectly fine over a white or a grey, but I wanted it to look slightly dark, so the metallics I'll be using, you'll see, are made by Dark Star. Really nice metallics. I love the range of colours they do. They do such a wide range of different metallic colours, and they have a really good coverage on them, so they can work well over any sort of base colour. Just out of force of habit, and what I'd usually do, I'll just paint the area black first. If I'm doing gold or a bronze or a brass, I'll paint that area brown before I paint it with a metallic over the top. So now moving on to the highlight, I've just added a small amount of monster brown. And same as all the other areas in the model, just going to pick the higher areas, the tops of the gloves, the tops of that. I want to call it a vambrace, but I'm not sure if that's the right word. And then just a touch more of the monster brown, just for the final highlight. And to highlight the black boots, we're going to use a bit of the Necromancer cloak we've got on our palette already. And again, exactly the same technique, just pick out the folds in the boots and the toe and a little bit around the heel, just where all the light will hit. Now we're using the Baroque from the Dark Star Metallics range. Again, there's areas of Captain Boomerang's clothes that are being held together by duct tape or gaffer tape, whatever I say, depending where in the world you're from is what you'd call it. It's just like a silver tape used for air ducting. So we're just going to pick that out along with the boomerangs. I don't tend, particularly with these metallics, to really shade or highlight them, just because they contain such a high amount of pigment that they tend to shade and highlight themselves. They've got such a good shine factor to them. Really good metallic paints. I'd recommend anyone to have a look at them, at least pick 2 or 3 of them up and try them out, but their range is incredible. I think silvers there's about 10 different shades, ranging from, I think this is probably the darkest, up to what's actually called silver, which is close to white. Again, they're golds. They've got 6 or 7 different shades. They've got brass, coppers, bronzes, all different ranges of metallics. They're wonderful colours. I have got a few of their inks, but I've not really used them yet. They do a set of weathering powders as well. Again, I've picked up a couple of the rust ones, but not really had a chance to play around with them yet, so it'll be something maybe for another set of models a bit later on. Some of my, maybe some scenery I'll try with them. It's probably the only part of the model which I was out of shot for, was doing the metallic part, but I haven't used these metallics for an airbrush yet either, but apparently they work really well for an airbrush. So again, I will I've got a couple of high area metal models to do, so perhaps I'll try it on them. And that's where we are with them guys. Is all done, so you'll about to see a picture of him come up, the finished article. I hope you've enjoyed the 2 videos I've done on Captain Boomerang. I have got more coming up. We will have more coming up. I will put a better picture up than that as well in the next one. It was one done off my phone, and it was so just the wrong angle and everything really, but we'll get this right. Yeah, please subscribe to Tabletop Games UK, not just the YouTube channel but the magazine. And if you feel like it and you feel like helping us move this along, then we have got a Patreon page as well, which you will find on our Facebook page and on the magazine site. So once again guys, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Keep subscribing and we will see you soon.